Welcome to the Vision Maker podcast. Today I'm with a director and editor of a documentary for the local Long Island comedy scene. So can you guys introduce yourselves real quick?
Hi, I'm John Silecchia. I am the director of By Day, By Night, working to make people laugh.
Hello there, I am Sean O'Brien, and I am the editor and a camera operator on By Day, By Night.
So how did the idea for this film come about?
So this actually came about from the producer of the film, Claudia Bonavita. So it all started actually when she called me one day on the phone. I was actually driving home from work, and she's like, John, I have an idea for a movie, because she's a stand-up comedian herself. So it all started with, I want to highlight people who do stand-up comedy and kind of go into their lives a little bit more. And I was like, all right, that sounds great. Actually, it's an interesting concept because, you just see the people on stage just doing stand-up and and let's be honest, no one really knows what they do or in that moment really, quote unquote cares. But we kind of shine a light on how these people, work during the day, then by night do stand-up comedy. So for, I want to say about a month, we kind of did a little pre-production, and from there we were like, we have an idea and let's roll with it.
So how did you guys come about selecting the comedians that you specifically focused on?
I think that was Claudia's idea.
Okay.
I think she reached out to just a few people she knows, essentially who she thought had eclectic enough jobs to be in this documentary. Because, you don't want to have like a guy who's, just works like, typical 9 to 5, because it's like everyone works 9 to 5.
Yeah.
What's the fun of that? So it's like, oh, we have a guy who works for the Hempstead Courts, or, someone who does adult protective service, like a little bit more beefier and a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I thought the range was super interesting, especially thinking about in the comedy, you think of a comedian, but yeah, the range of jobs I found super interesting. Everything from working in the courts, like you said, adult protective services, psychiatrist, minister or missionary, and they really have this common thread though when they come on stage as a comedian. This just definitely felt like a genuine love for the craft.
Right.
What was your thought process as far as putting the story together? What was your processes about putting the interviews together, the questions you asked, and the story you really wanted to tell?
So a lot of the questions were mostly Claudia's.
Okay.
A lot of that came from just her experience and just knowing them a little bit more. And it was just more of my job to make sure that, everything was kind of on key and on point to make that type of deal.
How did the pre-production work look like then? Because it sounds like you guys really came up, you did a lot of pre-pro planning out the whole thing. So how did that look like?
A lot of it was just us going back and forth on how to present the idea, because we had a lot more ideas that we had. I was like, all right, we need to cut this out, this out, this out, until we had one consensus idea. You don't want to do anything high profile, oh, why don't we go into all this? Let's just keep it short and simple. Comedians on Long Island with different jobs. Mm-hmm. And what are the questions are we going to ask? How are we going to present them? Where are we going to shoot? Because, a lot of them were, we actually shot a lot at St. Joe's at the Claire Rose Playhouse.
Oh, okay.
So that included a lot of the main interviews, except for Mitch's interview and Lou's interview, where we shot at his house and we shot at the Hempstead Courts.
Yeah.
But even for Act 1 and Act 2, same spot, same place, just different days.
Yeah. You were telling me a little bit before, but the production itself was pretty quick, pretty tight, right?
So I would say for main part of production, 5 days in total.
Okay.
Most of them over the course of July and August. Then
Nice.
1 day in October to film the third act, which was a whole comedy show.
Yeah.
So, and then maybe 1 day in April, actually 2 days in April, because we shot the place at James Street Players because we had to do Ellen's performance.
Right, we did Ellen's performance, but I think it was February or March where we ended up going to shoot Mitch's interview in his office.
Mm-hmm.
It was around that time, so.
Awesome. Any particular stories from production that stand out to you?
It's weird. I'm going to say no. And no, because just everything went pretty smooth.
Nice.
I had no issues, which I know you do film too, so it's, everyone has a story on a set. I just don't think I had any issues personally with this film. It's this went smooth. Yeah. Everything kind of worked out how I wanted it to. Film is done.
Yeah.
I mean, Sean, I don't know if you have any stories, but
I would say the last day when we shot, not an issue, but like the last day when we shot, which was for Ellen's performance, because she was unable to make it for the night of because something had happened. So we shot her performance a couple months later and really wanted her to be in the movie and all the acts.
Yeah.
So we had actually a more limited crew that night. It was just me, John, and Eric.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So we set up the 3 cameras and we set up all the audio. So, it was a bit of a challenge, but I think we pulled it off really well.
Yeah, I would have noticed that was a struggle.
Yeah, we were going like John and I would go back and forth just to make sure the cameras were recording, that the audio was on a good level. Because like I was making sure that the floor cameras were working, and Eric was on top filming with the main camera to give it a more dimension.
Yeah.
And I would go back to the audio thing because we just set up the mics and like no one was like wearing headphones, and I just wanted to make sure everything was recorded, nothing ran out of battery, and everything ended up working just fine.
That's great. And then I know with the main performance, that was a 5-camera setup, right?
that was a 5-camera setup.
Well, what made you want to go like full out?
I mean, logistically, it just would have made more sense because you're getting everyone from every angle. Comedians tend to walk around a lot.
Yeah.
If you just do like a static shot, especially that like it's the third act, you're going to have. Do you really want to spend 25 minutes looking at a straight camera and being like, oh, hi, here's me, I'm performing? Like, no.
Yeah, of course.
You want to have a little bit more oomph to it.
Of course.
So-
Yeah. So that was also a pretty smooth night for you guys too, right?
That's that part of the documentary I think I'm most proudest of. Like we really kicked butt shooting that, and then I eventually became the editor like maybe a month or 2 in. But when we shot that show, especially the interviews, but for the show, I just was really confident in the work that not I just did, but that everyone else did.
Yeah, no. And then, of course, I know that post-production was the big bulk of the project.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, like actually that was more time than, because we spent like a year and 3 months working on that.
Yeah, so basically, like I said, at first, like we thought maybe this would be a short documentary, but I think by the time we filmed the big show, we were like, no, we got like a full feature-length film. So I spent the next few months editing the interviews and then the big show before I did like any color correction or sound. And then by 3 months after the show, we did the first viewing we viewed the first cut. It was 2.5 hours long.
Was it 2? I thought it was just straight 2 hours.
No, it was 2.5 hours long. And we spent like, I think most of the day, like a full 6.5 hours just going over things, just trying to figure out what we wanted to keep in the movie, what we needed to add. Because eventually we did add Mitch's interview for Act 1, and then we added Ellen's Act 3 set. So, of course, that's going to add more and change some things. But we were able to tell, for the most part, like, okay, we can cut out that. But it's also tricky sometimes in interviews when they say something that's maybe important just to make sure everything makes sense and translates well. Because not every question's going to be there. Like, I believe most of the interviews were like 10 to 16 minutes long.
Okay.
And the truth is like...
They're probably reduced to about 5 minutes.
It's like 4 to 6 minutes. So, So...
No, I mean, I think that's very much the nature. You want to grab all the best answers, all the best stat bits, the sound bites. So you pretty much, you guys, you edited the full interview. And then you started to find the commonalities that flow one into the other that you wanted to tell in your story. And then, of course, after going through all the questions, now you're narrowing down to the questions that you needed to focus on for the film to get it down to the time. Who was the most involved in reviewing and helping make the cut decision? Was it mainly you two? Was Claudia involved?
I would say Claudia.
Yeah.
I think I just want to state like it's mostly her film. Like it was her vision.
Yeah.
She produced it. I was just the one who was able to help it bring it to life. So big shout out for Claudia for just being so wonderful to work with and just getting this project done.
That's great.
But no, she was very involved, which again I like. It was as I said, probably a very, very good collaborative effort that we had together.
What is one of the things that you guys are really hoping the audiences get from the film?
I think that the comedians that we interviewed, we never met them beforehand. But I think what people will see is that they're just everyday average people like them working the 9 to 5. And I think that there's some really personal but touching stories in there that I think people are going to relate to. Mm-hmm. And everything the comedians said, nothing felt bitter. They all felt like they came from a place of passion, and what they all said was pure. So it's like it was all positive, I feel.
Yeah, no, it felt great. It felt really like they really opened up to you guys.
Oh, 100%. Like, I think once, because again, we had a lot of downtime for the most part, so we were able to just talk with each other and just get to know each other a little bit more.
Yeah.
So it just helped with the synergy on set. Like, okay, when we interview you, it's going to be fine. Like, if we have to restart, there's no big deal. But I would say, just to answer your question, I just hope that audiences, when they watch the movie, just remember, like, just do what you love, because, as a director or someone who does film, before you actually get that job or even like an on-set experience, you're going to do a lot of mediocre jobs. Like, you're probably going to be working, retail, food service, which I have.
Yeah.
And it sucks, but at the end of the day, it's like, are you going to let that, deter you from making movies or doing animation or making music? Like, no, you should be doing it anyway. Like, if they can work their jobs and go home, go on stage and, tell jokes, what's stopping you from, doing what you love?
Good message.
So what is your plans for showing this film and the rollout of this film?
So right now, we already have a premiere of February 7th at Sayville Cinemas, which we are really, really proud of, and we're really happy that's finally on, like, the big screen. We are doing a screen at St. Joe's College, I think, for their students. It's going to be like a Q&A, and then we are having one more screening, I think, in March in the Patchogue Cinema Art Center, which is nice. But we're hoping to do, like, a festival run, so more people can see it, which...
Awesome.
Again, would love, because I haven't been in the festival scene since 21.
Yeah.
So it's finally nice to actually be back in and actually have something to show the world.
I also noticed an interesting thing about this film is there's animation throughout the film. You animated select stories throughout of each of them. And I believe that's also your role, John, that you are the animator for the film, right?
Yes, which is hi, I'm also John Silecchia, also the animator of By Day By Night. So... I started animation in 2021. So I took at least a 6-week class from John Dilworth, the guy who created Courage the Cowardly Dog. It was like online lessons.
Amazing.
It was great. It was it was like teaching me the basics of animation, because I'm trying to get into animation a little bit. So I'm like, oh, wait, I'll just contact, someone in the city. He was in the city, and like, all right, let's do these like Zoom lessons. And I did. So I took like 6 weeks of classes from him. Yeah. And then I kind of, from there, started to just work on my own stuff. So I made like little cartoons, just for myself. But I started to do more freelance on the side once I started to really improve my craft. I just did a film for my friend Tate called 777, which just premiered at a Video Dome in Brooklyn, which was very nice and very fun to have that there.
Yeah.
But I should probably get back to Claudia, how that came to be. I think we were trying to find B-roll for the movie, and we were kind of trying to figure out, like, oh, is this royalty free or not? A lot of logistics. Yeah. I don't want to pay for it, so let's try it.
Yeah.
And we
See
had
what we can find. Yeah.
Yeah. I think was it your idea or Claudia's idea? It's like, hey, John does animation. Why don't we do little cartoon stories? I'll be honest, at first, I was kind of against it. I was like, it's going to look...
I think what happened is that yes, we needed more visuals for the interviews, but what happened is that you, Eric, and I eventually watched a cut of the movie by like spring of last year, and we realized like we were bouncing ideas off of each other. I think it was maybe you or him that started to think like, what if we added like animation? Because that could fit in the tone of the film.
Eric.
Yeah, see, it was Eric, because I was against it at first. I was like, I really don't want to do animation. It's not going to fit. Like, why would I want to put cartoons in a documentary? But they convinced me, and I was like, all right, well, time to bust out the pen and tablet and start working on it. So I end up putting these little like cartoon segments in the documentary, and honestly, I think they look good.
I think they work really well. It definitely... It adds a unique spice to it all. Like, it really breaks up the film, which is nice, because it's like, oh, okay. And then you can follow along with the story, way more engaging, So was your selection of which stories to animate purely based on if you had the B-roll for it? Or was it more like, okay, this sounds like it would be good animated? Like...
So how we did it was, Sean, I think we agreed on this, that we tried to find stories that just didn't have B-roll or anything that wasn't, interesting. And I don't mean interesting like what they were talking about.
Yeah.
But interesting like there was nothing to kind of break
Visuals.
the nothing kind of to break the visual silence. So I think you picked about like 5, and I would have to choose like, all right, does this one fit this one that? I think we came up about like 5 or 6.
Yeah, I think in total we did 5 or 6 stories, and I think we stopped at 5, but then Claudia suggested just maybe crank out one more, and that was the frog one.
That was the frog one.
Yeah.
Which that was my favorite one because there was a bunch of fallen blocks. So how we did a lot of them, if you see them like transition in, I would just have a green screen. So I do everything in Adobe Animate.
Okay.
Formerly Flash, but I would just I would put like a green, color filter on it. So Sean can key it out in post, and I would have the block kind of come down so it looks like it's stacking on the frame.
Oh, that's how you did this. Okay, very nice. Very well done. No, yeah. I think those transitioned very well. They told the story. It was engaging. Never broke it up. And also, like, animation, visual effects are very common in demonstrations and documentaries especially. So I definitely feel like it's not out of place at all. I think it fits.
I know they did that in Bowling for Columbine. They did. It was like after Matt Stone's interview, they transitioned into like the history of guns in America, which was like.
Yeah, I've seen it in so many, like in The Social Dilemma and different Netflix documentaries and different things like that. Yeah, they use a lot of animation or like visual effects type of storytelling. So it definitely helps really create another level of engagement. But also like your style did add like a humor to it. Mm-hmm. Because it was very cartoony, and like these people are comedians, and they have a very like lively personality.
Which is why I think it fit because it was a little cartoony and like uplifting. Like if this was just like
very lighthearted.
The history of polluted in America, and it's like these cartoony frogs jumping around. You're like, that's not going to work.
That's not going to work at all.
Could it be interesting? Totally misses the point, but it has to fit.
Yeah, no. So it definitely, I think it melded well with the story. I thought the story was very wholesome, overall. Do you feel like there's any particular role that you personally find that you gravitate to more? Yeah, I know we're all here. We know like a whole bunch of different avenues in filmmaking. You gotta be turned into like a Swiss Army knife nowadays. It's like the essential
It's ridiculous.
Thing. But outside of that, no, I feel like to get to that next level of filmmaking, you always gotta focus on like what's your role gonna be. So like, is there a particular one? I'm gonna ask you the same, but is there a particular one for you that you really feel like gravitates for you?
I personally would love to do animation more than live action at one point in my life. It just feels more rewarding in a sense. I guess
as the animator or as like a showrunner?
I think either or. I mean, because animation itself, like doing the art of animation is a little tiresome, but like, you have to do it. It's not like I can just send over, the stuff to North Korea through like Rough Draft or something. I still have to, do everything frame by frame. I don't have a crew. I animate all my shorts by myself. So I don't have someone doing backgrounds, layout, keyframes, and all that. So I personally would love to do that. I mean, obviously I'm still brewing with ideas, I'm storyboarding out a few projects, but I think eventually I would like to go down more of the animation route.
Is there a particular genre you would love to do of animation? Because there's like adult comedy shows, and then there's like also kids shows and everything in between,
I would say more like the prime time lean and adult.
Okay.
So nothing like Family Guy, Simpsons, or Rick and Morty, but more like Space Ghost, Coast to Ghost, Aqua Teen Hunger Force Venture World, like kind of the really weird, surreal stuff I love.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, you brought something else up too. It's the fact that you guys have to go frame by frame, which for me, it blows my mind because I'm just like, that's 24 frames a second. You're talking
I animate in 30 actually.
Okay,
I do 30
frames. 30 frames a second. And it's like, man, there's 60 seconds in a minute.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's 30 by 60. And then if you do it for like not even like a 10-minute thing, that's like by another 10. And it's like, that's so many frames. I'm sure there's tools that makes it flow a lot faster.
I mean, again, since I'm still up and coming with it, I'm still new to it, I'm still trying to figure out how to make stuff faster for myself.
Okay.
I mean, I don't want to be there for like 12 hours. Like, I just made my hand move just up there. I would like to get a little bit more out of what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So eventually, I would like to have a system going, maybe bring on some more people. But I mean, obviously, I love what I do.
Yeah.
You know, if I didn't, I wouldn't be doing it. You know, I would be like, Sean, do you really want me to animate, 6 things for a film if I didn't love it?
Yeah. I mean, you also were like, Sean, do you really want me to animate these 6 things for the film?
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, you said this.
I'm like, you can do it, John. This needs animation for this one part, and it's going to be great. And it was great.
It was great.
And Sean, you were both the camera op, and then you became the editor for the film. So how do you feel like in both camps? Is like, what do you feel is more your main steakhouse, that being the editor?
I think so. I love post-production, and over the past couple of years, I've been focusing more on editing. I've been editing vlogs and podcasts and a few other things for a couple of my friends' channels, like Game Controller Network. I did a little bit of work for AN Productions, and I've done some stuff for John even before we did this documentary.
So you honestly, you like the whole editing process more than the in-person camera shooting process.
I mean,
not that you dislike it, that you prefer.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, I've always loved editing. Is like putting pieces of a puzzle together, and it's like be able to change things and make them even look cooler or better than you imagined. So
that's awesome. We need more people like you in the world. So I love shooting, and I love the fact that once I'm off set, that's it. I shot. There it is. There's the footage, and it goes to the editor. But editing is it's like you keep going and going until it's done, and then revisions and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, the fun stuff.
It could be tedious, especially it's like you'll be like, we're 95%. Let's say we're like 95% done with it.
Yeah.
But it can take like a lot of work just to get to 96%.
Yeah. But I noticed there's people on the opposite end. They don't like the whole fast-paced shooting and this and that. They like to have their time to work the problem, to make it happen, to do the step-by-step, right?
Yeah, definitely.
As an editor, how did you feel this project really came together? Do you feel like the production made it come together really cohesively? Did you feel like there was a lot of work to be done in the post to really make all the pieces work together?
I feel that this was a pretty strong production. The great thing that when we started is that Claudia had a format of how she wanted the movie to go. So that helped give us an idea of like what we needed to do. Of course, it took a little bit of time. We spent over the course of 2023 editing the movie, watching cuts, because we're also busy doing other things with our lives, working and stuff like that. But I would say probably the reason why the movie is premiering now is because we just wanted to make it right. We wanted to make it a good time length. We wanted the right amount of visuals. We wanted to make sure the color and correcting is correct. And I don't like to settle. I like to make sure that everything is great and that my clients, there being Claudia and John, are satisfied with the work.
That's a great attitude to have, maintain the level of quality.
Thank you.
It sounds like you guys also were pretty collaborative in the editing process as far as overlooking everything and coming up with the...
I mean, of course. I mean, as someone who edits like myself, it's like, okay, Sean, why don't we do it like this? And I think one thing I gave to you was how to edit the interviews and the live shows, which we did everything in Adobe. So how we kind of went about that is like, why don't we just make everything one like merge clip? Yeah. Put on what's it called, like Video Cut, like what's the right tool for it? It's like kind of
nest the clips.
Yeah, you want to nest it together, and you want to multicam it. Yeah. So it just made the process faster. Yeah. So you're not having to do like, oh, do I think this goes there? No, we can just switch 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
Oh yeah.
There we go.
Honestly, any and every interview that's multicam should be done with a multicam. Yeah. A clip in be it DaVinci or Premiere. I'm assuming Final Cut has some version of the multicam.
I don't use Final Cut.
I believe they do.
Yeah, they have to have some version. I know DaVinci does, and I know Premiere does. But that definitely saves so much time in post to create those clips, because then you can just pick your angles and then you can feed it in with everything else on top.
Yeah, it's not like you have to go through iMovie and be like, all right, why don't I just cut this piece out and put this there?
I used to do that, but then I learned about the multicam thing, and it was so helpful for this project. Because like what happened was that I edited the interviews first.
Yeah.
But then as we were cutting things along and realizing, okay, that needs to change, that angle needs to change.
Yeah.
It's like I was basically re-editing not just the interview, but the angles of the interviews.
So it
just to make sure
doubles
that
up the work.
It did double up the work, but it was worth it because it fit in better than what it had started as, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. What do you feel is next for you guys?
What's next? Wow, that's a great question. Besides, the festival run, I think,
of course,
first and foremost.
Yeah, you got the premiere, the festival run.
Because that's going to be at least a few years, maybe 2 to 3 years tops. I mean, hopefully, if it goes more, I'd love that. But, that's going to be my main focus. But right now, I'm starting to really just kind of focus on myself and just do projects. For me, a lot of animation, a lot of even just short films, just because I haven't done that in like almost 2 years. The last one I shot was a little skit on YouTube called Killer Geese, and that was 2021. And besides that, I've just maybe made like really just animation stuff, and I kind of want to just focus on that as well as freelance work. I'm like, I'm not gonna say no if someone's like, oh hey, we're gonna pay you $1,000 to shoot an event. I'm like, okay, but it's frankly just putting more emphasis on what I need to do for me and just build up my portfolio a bit more.
No, smart. And how about you, Sean?
I'm looking to also do more freelance work. Eventually, I would like to do more post-production work, like video editing or audio editing for like feature films or documentaries or other types of projects. And I do make some of my own content on the side. I have my own production banner called Punky Studios, which I have some content on YouTube. I'm looking to release a short film called Critic within the next few months that I shot as my senior thesis film back in college. And it was in 2 short film festivals in 2021.
Nice.
So I'm looking to finally release that for people to watch it. And if John's got more projects or anyone that I know has more projects, I'm always willing to help.
Nice. How'd you get started in editing?
I have always loved film, but I didn't realize I could like get into it till I was like maybe 10 or 11. I was just like, I originally wanted to be a gym teacher because I liked my gym teacher. But then by like 11, I was just like, no, I want to get into film. I want to do this stuff. And then by the time I was like 16, 17, I had made a couple of like homemade movies. And, when you're starting off, you take them too seriously and they're not the best.
Of course.
But my mom actually really encouraged me to focus on the editing aspect. She's like, I think you're really good at that and that you could be even greater in that. So over the years, I've just been, even though I've made some of my own shorts, like I mentioned, I've just been focusing more on that because that's something I'm passionate about. And I feel that I can do strongly.
Amazing. And how did you start as far as filmmaking in general?
Oh, God. I have to go back, like 10, maybe 15 years at this point, which, oh, God, I have to actually get the little hamster wheel turning over here. But I think, if you're asking for like inspiration, like just watching Godzilla movies, like I just think it's just the most creative thing. It's a guy in a suit destroying a model city. It's great. It's a great concept. But I think beyond that, how myself, just being in middle school and making deals with my friends, then eventually it became like, oh, hey, BOCES has classes for, film video. So I went to BOCES for like a semester, not a semester, but a year. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I kind of want to go through this route. And I did. I went to 4 years of college and, it was good. I got my senior film made, went to a film festivals, but, the pandemic happened. Everything kind of, went to the hayside. And that's when, animation came and I'm like, oh, at least I can make stuff from home. Yeah. And that's how everything kind of came to be in a nice little package to 2024.
Nice. Well, yeah. Yeah, no, time goes by quick.
It really does.
John and I actually met, well, we went to the same school district, but we didn't really officially like meet until like, we went to like a BOCES camp together in summer 2013. And ever since then, we've been not only friends, but we've been working together.
BOCES is so underrated. I feel like everyone should know about BOCES because I did BOCES when I was in high school as well. I did it for audio.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's such a great program to get like an actual actionable technical skill right out of high school that you can start working in. Because right after BOCES, I started working in audio. Even though I started going to college for it, I was already working in the field. So I feel like that's something that would be so helpful to. I'm sure other locations, other states have similar programs as BOCES, these technical schools. And it's such a great deal too in high school when you get to spend half your day off campus doing a technical job like that. I was like, oh, great. This gives me a science and a math credit too.
But also too, I feel like we need more of that in schools. I mean, not every kid in high school is going to be, oh, hey, I can do a general ed type of math, music, whatever happens in high school now. Like some kids are just need to work with their hands or do have more of a technical skill. And I think that's important. I personally think all high schoolers should at least do one semester of trade school, guaranteed.
Yeah, or just have the option to. Like I love BOCES because it gives you the option that not every student wants to be a doctor, lawyer, or professor, which all requires a lot of schooling.
Yeah.
But some people, they want to be a mechanic. So there's BOCES for mechanic, for makeup, for all these things. And they're very actionable that you can make money. And if they want higher education because they want to do something else, now they also have an actionable skill that they can start working in immediately or apply. Or if they want to open a business in that area, you need the technical skill,
100%.
And you also have your own production company as well, right?
I wouldn't say it's a production company. It's a
production title.
Yeah. It's called Neon Dream Studios.
Neon Dream.
It's where I just make my little cartoons and films and just post them online.
Nice.
I wouldn't say I take it like obviously I take it seriously, but it's not something like, oh, I'm going to make it like a big brand.
This is more of your passion projects, your original projects. I get it.
It's just stuff I can make for myself because personally, I'm going to make more money doing freelance and doing stuff where I can be like, hey, I'll direct your film or I can do that. Or frankly, I'm okay with doing that.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, it's like, I just want to sit down and do a project for myself. So this is where I kind of put everything on is Neon Dream Studios.
I'm excited for your film, guys. I think you guys did a good job. The people, it's such a wholesome story altogether. And the comedy at the end was funny. The whole stand-up.
Oh, they were hysterical.
They were hysterical. It was, the minister really caught me off guard with what he said. Thank you so much for coming down today. People got to see the premiere on February 7th. At
Sayville Theaters.
Sayville Theaters. You hear it here. Is there any way people can stay in touch and keep up with what's happening with the film and what's happening with you guys?
So obviously, please come to a lot of the festival screens that we're doing, where hopefully we can get a few years after this. So if it's ever coming to your town, please do come. We would love to have more people watch this movie. ByDayByNightDoc.com.
It's awesome. And how can people keep up with you guys?
On YouTube or Newgrounds, Neon Dream Studios. That's where I post a lot of my own personal work.
Nice. And your content?
You could check out my content on Punky Studios. It's on YouTube. I've got a couple of videos on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, guys. And
thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us.
My pleasure. And of course, you can always follow us at Vision Maker Podcast and follow our other work and content at Vision Maker Productions. Okay. Have a good night, everybody.